Good evening, everyone. Hello, family. I hope you are winning. We need to win all the time. Welcome to another episode, Fruit of the Womb. My name is Lerato, and I'm your host tonight. And tonight we are tackling this interesting topic. As we know that in the month of November, here in South Africa, we talk about gender-based violence. As you can see here on the studio, I am with my special guest, Lerato, and she's going to share with us her journey on how she survived gender-based violence. Welcome, Lerato.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for honoring us, for being our guest tonight. It's such an honor to be in this space with you. I will give you the opportunity to greet our viewers at home. Tell us, who are you? Ke mang Lerato? What she does? Uphuma kuphi?
Okay, so Lerato, as you call me, is from Orlando East, born and bred, proudly so. And then I'm an author. I recently wrote the book, which is a memoir on my experience with gender-based violence.
In a nutshell, before we can go deeper on that, what is gender-based violence?
So to me, gender-based violence, it could happen to either a male or female, is mostly highlighted when it happens to women because women are the weaker vessel. And I think we should take care of women, especially when they are attacked by their partners, which are male. So to me is when a male does not treat their partner or their wife accordingly and abuses them. It can be physical, it can be mental, so it doesn't have to be a slap for it to be characterized under gender-based violence.
You know, you were talking about your book. Can you please tell us the title of your book and what inspired that title?
So it's called I Won't Be Silenced. It's a memoir because I will not be silenced when an abuser wants to stop me from talking about what has happened to me. And I wrote that book so that my children can have reference on what has happened and identify what is abuse. So importantly, sometimes abuse is not in your face. I hear a lot of people that say, yo nanka tsamaya, yo antlape fela, as if utla utlapa beli. Doesn't start with a slap. Usually the slap is the last thing that happens. It's very subtle, it's body shaming, it's making jokes that are uncomfortable, you know, and you cannot reciprocate and do the same jokes to the person that's actually abusive because they don't take what they're dishing usually. And that's one of the signs that I would like a person to be aware of.
You know, Lerato, it's not always easy for a person to pen down their story. But on your case, what really provoked you? I understand that you wrote the book for your children to know what happened. But what really provoked you that this time now, right now, I am writing this book and I won't be silenced?
I wrote the book specifically because of the silencing. So the abuser was taking me to court every other day, trying to make my voice not to be heard. So I wrote the book specifically to attend to the silencing that I was incurring, where he was using the court system to basically shut me up. So that's what drove me when I was sitting there ko Randburg court, ke busy ke free for ditulo tsa court, hore okay, now you are trying to stop me from tweeting or posting whatever that I want to. I'm going to put it in a book.
Tell us a little bit how this has started in your life when you experience abuse. Can you take us from the beginning, how it started?
I disrespected my gut, which is my sixth sense. So in the beginning, something was not right. My gut was forever telling me, "Hore, ay man, hunantwe wrong," but I could not put a finger on it. But my gut told me that something is wrong, and I disrespected my gut. And I think that's one thing I did wrong. Not following through or listening to this uncomfortability. I was walking on eggshells, and there was nothing really making me to walk on eggshells. But I was uncomfortable in my own home and around this person without evidence of abuse, because I was in love with this person and the father of my children. I want to make things work. And I was still uncomfortable around him. So I think me going through this experience, I would say to the next person, when your gut says something is wrong, you need to sit down and pay attention. Your gut is your God. Abuse, sometimes you cannot identify it. It's not a smack, as a clapper, and then you know you're abused. It's very subtle. It's little behaviors that we accept as human beings, as jokes. And that's how slowly or how little it starts. So it was important for me to put it in a book. Hore ke rute my child or the next person, hore read another person's story and then see yourself and then identify where you are. Because abuse is a cycle. It happens in a cycle. And when you're stuck in a cycle, it's not easy to get out of it. And I think me putting a book out there, I want a person to see themselves outside of my story so that they can identify where they are in their cycle in abuse.
Yo, Lerato, this is very inspiring indeed. So, that time when you were at your home, you are married, you have beautiful children. When did it hit you? But no, man. Yeah, I've been abused.
I knew all along. So, from the beginning or something is wrong. Okay, when did it become evident? It's when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Ne? And at that time, I get how cooler. Even when you love a person, when you are sick now, I think it had affected me. The illness had affected me physically to a point where I had to be selfish. So during my treatment, breast cancer, then kabona man, ay man, di ntotse ke di acceptang ay man. Asitsona man. Yeah, the way why so. You know, when you're in love, it's okay. You overlook certain things. Oh, stressed. Yeah, no, he doesn't mean it. So I used to make excuses for him with his bad behavior. But when I got ill, I had no patience. Like, why so? And then he was shocked. Or why are you asking me? Why? You know, because I allowed it to happen. It got to a point where, when me reacting, triggered him, because why are you reacting? Because I've always treated you like this. You know? So yeah, I think when I got sick, when my guard was down, that's when I actually paid attention. Alright, man, stop treating me like this. When treat me with respect. And then there was friction, because now I'm calling him out, and he didn't like it because I had allowed him to treat me in a particular way.
You know, especially as in the black society, when you are married and you have problems within your marriage, they say you as a woman,
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you find yourself going there, complaining to them?
Yeah.
Did they help you? What happened there?
So I did complain. So I started call family so go there. And they couldn't help me. They tried to call him one day, and then about performela, and they were scared of him. So Libona, they allowed him. So Lian, he was in shock. 19 months. So there was nothing that they could do, because they had also enabled him to act in a particular way. I remember one of the uncles, I want to ho nyalwa ke this person hobane ke katse o dula e gora. So now that I think about what they said, it means oh ba allowile katse e ya bona re dulentse e gora, and actually by stroke hore o katse wena o dula o e gora. So you act in a particular way. Even when it's unacceptable, we allow you because wena o katse o dula o e gora. Yeah. So calling it out was too late because the enablement was to the core now. And I think that's why at the end I had to be hurt and be stabbed because this person you know, and now when I call him out, he cannot handle me calling him out. Yeah. Something that he doesn't know, either from me or from his family, because we've always put him on a pedestal. And I think when I summarize or try to identify how I got hurt by a person that I thought loved me, then I can able to identify. And this didn't come overnight, eh? Lots of therapy and seeing myself as an enabler. So I have to take my role that I played in order to heal and make sure that I don't go through this again.
Yo, Barret, la ikutlwela ko gae story sa Lerato. Or sometimes your sixth sense will tell you mo marato mo gonkgalefotha. How many of us really listen to our gut? We are not alone. We are joined by a professional social worker. I will give her the opportunity to greet us. Tell us, who are you, Mama? What is it that you are doing? And welcome to the Fruit of the Womb show.
Thank you, Ria. Thank you for being here. My name is Makhavhu. I'm a registered social worker. I operate in the area of Randburg, but I'm all over the country. So you can get my service all over the country. What I do as a social worker, as a counselor, is that I provide therapy. I provide counseling to everyone who's confronted with, problems that really strike all of us, whether being from the home front, being at work, being in communities, being in society. So I provide those kinds of services. So if you are really dealing with issues of gender-based violence, depression, anxiety, trauma, suicide thoughts, we are here to help you. We are here to walk that journey with you. You can't do it alone.
I should have you on speed dial.
Thank you.
Osremi, we are talking about gender-based violence. And as a registered social worker, what are the signs? Because most of us, we convince ourselves this person will change. I love this person. What are the first signs that you can see as a woman or even as a man that, trouble is coming?
Absolutely. When I was listening to her story, I just wanted to say, you know what? She's actually the counselor. She just summed it up. Because the things that she's saying and have gone through are exactly what GBV is all about. That sixth sense, it's the most powerful tool that you have in you. That even if you don't have a counselor or a family and elder, that is the most powerful tool because it tells you something. It tells you there's a problem here. Don't ignore it. But as she was saying earlier on, what did she do? She ignored it. And she paid a huge price for ignoring it. So the signs that you see when you realize that there's a problem, there's a abuse, especially in a relationship, be it a marriage relationship, be it just, a partner, a type of a relationship, is that, first of because, abuse comes in two forms. It's verbal, and then it escalates to physical. But normally it starts verbally. So what will happen? The man, but also I want to say, You know, GBV, it's also both sides. It can also be experienced by men. However, the statistics tells us mostly the victims are women. But there are men who are vulnerable, who are weak, who are fragile, who can also experience GBV. But today we are talking about where a woman is a victim. So the signs, what are the signs? It starts with verbal abuse. What do we mean by that? A person starts disrespecting you. A person starts talking to you like you are a child. A person starts talking to you like you don't add value in his life. You are just here. It's as if he doesn't even know how did it happen that you are his spouse.
Like you are here to eat his money.
Exactly, you know. He talks to you like you are a nobody. Sometimes even treating you like a fool, like an idiot. He can even pass comments like, you know, how tshwanele basadi ba bang. Look at you. You know, you're not as good as other women. I mean, those things. Being the receiver of those comments, it takes a toll on you. It does. And what does it tell you as that person who's receiving that? Am I all those things that he's telling me? Yeah. Am I a fool? Am I not better than other women? Am I not good for him? So why did he marry me? If, you know, he can treat me this way. So those are the signs. And don't ignore them and say, it's one day. You only said it yesterday. So tomorrow will be better. So you find the next week it repeats. The next month it continues. The next 3 months it continues. 6 months it goes on. But you know why it's going on? As you are saying, you are now beginning to allow it to say, it's fine. Maybe I'm all those things, so treat me this way. You know, in therapy we always say, especially in GBV, you are treated the way you allow people to treat you. That's it. If the very first day your husband treats you in that way and you say, thou shall not happen to me, you put a foot down. You send a very clear message that you will not treat me this way. So that if he thinks of doing it the second time, he must remember what you said. And you know what goes into his mind is that here is a woman who's willing to stand for herself. So I can't take chances. Exactly. But it doesn't mean he will stop. He will try the second time, probably the third time. The more you allow it, the more it will happen. The more it will continue. And the more you allow it and more, the more it's going to lead to disastrous consequences. And you don't want to get there. So the signs verbally are those. He start treating you like a fool, an idiot, a useless woman in his house or in your house, both of you. Now, those are the first signs. When it escalates to physical abuse, it's because you have allowed it, as you said. Because it will never get to physical abuse if you have stopped it at the verbal abuse. So it has now escalated to physical abuse. And then he looks at you and says, I can even hit her. She's nobody, she's nothing. So he starts contemplating, I will beat her, I will hit her, I will throw her around the walls. Even if he goes to hospital, or even if he goes to the police and report me. And you know what they do? After he realized that he hit you through the walls and beat you, he comes and apologizes. Some of them. But don't take that apology. It's a fake apology. Because he's just smoothing you. He's just melting you a bit so that you forgive and you say, you know what, my husband, let's move on. So you move on to the next day. You realize the next day you are weak. You are vulnerable again. He beats and hits you again. And then he comes the following day and apologizes. And so what happens? It becomes a cycle. A cycle. Hits you, apologize, you accept the apology. The third day he hits you, he apologizes, you accept the apology. It becomes a cycle. And as it becomes a cycle, one day he says, I can even kill her because she's okay with all of this.
We see one problem, especially when it comes to our parents. What I have noticed now, when a man goes to a woman's parents to complain about me, my parents will reprimand me very strongly in front of him. But when I go to his family, they're like, hey, don't do that. Because in our black society, they taught us and we have to deal with this kind of things. So I think where I am standing, we need to change that narrative. Ya gore mosadi o tshwara thipa ka bogaleng, mosadi so se a khotlhelle mathata a lenyalo. What is your take on that, Lerato? When mme ga go laela a re ko wena tshwara thipa ka fo bogaleng, o itse gore lelapa wa le berekela, le fa monna a cheata, le fa monna sa roba le ko ntlung, mosadi go go khotlhella.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about
so
that?
When I was taken to court, the t-shirts that we made, Nere # I'm not a member of Team Begazela. Specifically for that reason, not how I was raised, where perhaps my parents or my family played a role of me staying, is that divorce is a shame. So you don't want to embarrass. You're the first one to divorce in the family. So that's the shame I carried. I'm gonna file for divorce, and now I'm going to embarrass my uncles, my dad, everybody, because none of them has ever divorced. And then another thing that held me back was rapela. Akibatli, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, but I will not tell a woman all langa abuse or rapela. You don't pray yourself out of an abusive situationship. Like you identify hore lang, and if hunale abuse, you take the legal remedies. You get a protection order. You protect yourself. You call the police when you're attacked. Yeah, so that's those two things. Yeah, hore I would be an embarrassment in terms of filing for divorce, because I'll be the first one in my family that has ever divorced. That I carried that shame. And then secondly, when I would complain, they're like, oh no, as if automatically things will be resolved. But I must say, with the advice, I prayed, and actually the Holy Spirit comforted me to file for divorce. One day I was sitting, thinking about my situation, praying, and then I heard a voice say, why are you subjecting yourself to this? Even I love you. And that was God talking to me directly. So that rapela was not in vain, I guess, because my answer came through prayer. To file, I was counseled by the Holy Spirit to file for divorce. So I don't carry the shame of being a divorced woman, as if there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Unfortunately, I met a man that was not good enough and that could not appreciate who I am. So I don't carry the shame anymore, because I've taken responsibility of what has happened and what I had to do in order to survive.
From your book, which chapter that is very close to your heart, that was to share with somebody out there watching us right now?
I think the last chapter is the writer's review, where I actually show you how to file for a protection order and what to look out for in court. Hobani, the police don't care. The security guard go court rude. When you are in distress, trying to go report what has occurred, you're going to meet rude clerks. Nobody cares about you. So I want to prep a woman to be mentally ready to deal with the court system, which is so unfriendly. Nobody cares. So that last chapter of my book is the most important one for me, because I guide you. I hold your hand. I take you with me to court, and I tell you exactly what you look out for. I even guide you on how to complete that threatening form, because sometimes the clerk will latlhelaka form. When you are distressed at that time, you need somebody to hold your hand, and you might be by yourself. So my book takes you through that form and highlights the important things that need to be included so that you get your protection order. It breaks my heart to see a lot of women where protection order are not granted because forms were not filled in correctly. So, yeah, guidance in terms of how to deal with the police. Now that you have the protection order, you need to go to the police. The police don't care. They've got other cases and other things that they're dealing with. Now, how do you make sure that you stand out and you become a priority? By taking down names, taking down people that you are talking to, making sure that you know who the station commander is. So I had to learn all of this, and I've written them so that the next person can have a little bit of an easier guidance when they need to go through that process.
Thank you so much. Back to you, Mehemi. How do you deal with cases that GVB that comes to your office? Women coming, crying that they've been abused. How do you go through the whole process to make sure that they find their healing?
Ria, what we normally do is to go through phases of therapy, where we try to establish, for example, I'll establish what led to that abuse, because every situation has got its own different background. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. So you try to establish what exactly is the background, what happened initially, why the two people ended up where they ended up. So the person will actually explain, the woman will explain and say, this is how it happened, this is then how it progressed, and this is where it is. And during that assessment, I will try to check whether, as I was saying earlier on, did the woman allow it or you didn't? So some you find that they fought back. They tried their best to fight. But even when they fought back, it still didn't help. And they had to finally come to a decision like Lerato, which is a divorce. But it's basically to assess every step of the way. What happened? And what did you do when it happened? How did you deal with it? What are the different solutions you tried? And which one worked? Which one failed? And so the whole assessment process is going to lead me to where eventually I say, okay, the evaluation of me, of this case versus somebody else's case, is that this is what played out. Had she done 1, 2, 3 maybe earlier, this would have never happened. Let's say, for example, you've been noticing the abuse all along, and you have allowed it. You did not try to engage the person, because I always say, try to engage the person initially. When you see the signs, right at the beginning, engage your husband. Why are you doing this? Why are you treating me like this? Is there a reason maybe you are treating me like this? So that you sit down and talk about it. And maybe there might be something that the husband is not satisfied, about from the woman. But unless the two of you talk, the woman will never know. Sometimes it's the other way around. So the first step is to really talk about, why are you doing this to me? I'm your wife, remember. You married me out of millions of women. So why today do you think you can disrespect me and treat me this way? Establish the reasons. Establish the facts. Because sometimes there are facts that you are not aware of. But because you are not talking, the two of you, you don't know. So this man end up ventilating his frustrations about you by now being abusive to you. So if that process of establishing, why are you treating me like this, why are you doing this, it's not bearing any fruit, he's not being open, he's not talking, then you say, okay, now that he doesn't want to engage, it means I must now defend myself. So you move to that next stage of saying, okay, if he start, insulting me, talking to me like this, I'm going to respond in a way that I think stage 2 allows me to. Because by the time you get to stage 6, you must have tried 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't jump from 1 to 6. Because one day when you go to therapy, they say, did you try stage 2, stage 3? Maybe have you tried 2 and 3? Things would have worked better. Have you gone to a counselor? Have you gone for counseling? The two of you, not one person. Because sometimes when you go to counseling while it's still early, you could have avoided certain things. Even this man who's abusive could have noticed that I the man, have got a problem. It's not Lerato, it's me. So counseling enables you to uncover certain things that you are not aware of. So you then stage 2 say to yourself, because he doesn't want to engage, now I must be ready for this battle. I must just learn to stand on my own. And one of the things that I do is, which is what Lerato said, I must not allow it to happen. It happened yesterday, I'm just going to allow it to happen today and tomorrow and the next week. So when you stand for yourself, the guy starts saying, oops, I'm not dealing with a walkover here. She is going to stand for herself. But what if she's also dangerous? That when I hit her, she can even hit me back.
Or even shoot me.
Or even shoot me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fruit of the Womb show, and we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back from our short break. My name is Ria Tezwe. I'm your host tonight, and we are talking about gender-based violence with Lerato and Khemi. I decided not to mention their surname because it's a little bit traumatizing for me, but we are doing very well so far. Khemi, there are personality disorder in relationships. Motho today also kasone also ha re tsona le bipolar or hwetsahala eng ka wena. Can you please educate us about this personality disorder?
Personality disorder, Ria, it's also another form of you know, we also call it a syndrome, you know, in theory and in practice. But what happens is that a person changes who he or she is on regular basis. So today you see a different character, tomorrow you see a different personality. Tomorrow you see a very likable personality. The person is nice, warm, welcoming. Tomorrow he has changed 90% degree. He's very, very different. He's cold, he's aggressive, he's emotional, he's impatient. So one part of that kind of a personality, we call it obviously bipolar, because it says you've got a two different type of personality. You've got this extreme, and bipolar, you have the extreme personality. So it's not like, you know, closer to being the same as yesterday. It goes into the extreme. You can be extremely cold today and be extremely warm tomorrow. So people like that, who then tend to be perpetrators of gender-based violence, is that they're going to dom you. They're going to make you feel like today he's a nice guy, he's a nice warm husband, he can even, you know, buy you stuff, buy you flowers, chocolate, and then you buy into that. Tomorrow he's aggressive, he's cold, he beats you, he abuses you. So don't fall for that trap. Don't fall for that trap. Ask yourself, why is he warm today? Why is he nice today? There must be something.
But what really causes that?
It's because people like that are manipulators. They manipulate you because they want you to be warm. Once you're warm, and then you're gonna warm up to them, and then once you are warming up to, you know how women we are. We are vulnerable, we are sweet, we are nice, we are kind. So the minute you think your husband is treating you well, buying you flowers, you think, oh, he loves me. So you become vulnerable, you become weak. At your weakest, that's when he's going to strike and show the other personality. The cold, the aggressive, the abusive personality. And then he does all those things, and then you are down again. When you are down again, you are crying, you want to go to the hospital, you want to report him, and he says, no, you know, love, come back. I mean, I'm sorry. I was just, you know, it just happened in a spin of a moment, and then you fall for that, you forgive her. Tomorrow, he repeats it. So don't fall for that kind of a bipolar disorder. Don't fall for that personality inconsistency. All of us needs to be consistent. You must know that Lerato, as a general character, he's like this. She may have some days where she's extraordinary happy or extraordinary sad, but you know generally the type of character is this one, or the type of a character that her husband is this. But anything that goes into the extreme, it's a warning sign. You're dealing with a manipulator, and don't fall for the manipulator.
Do you think it has to do with the background where they came from? Or motho wa ichusetsa fela nje gore ke tlo offer paketso mo tseleng?
You know, a lot of times men are influenced by so many things. There are people who say usually women who are victims of gender-based violence, it's because of economical factors. It's because they depend on their husband for finances, and therefore they don't want to rock the boat, so they suffer the abuse in silence. But at the same time, career women, very economical women, suffer the same abuse. Because you find that on the other hand, the man is not as economically successful like the woman. So he become bitter. Why was it not me? Why is it Lerato? I'm the man. I should have been the one on top, not her. Not understanding that Lerato got where she got because of her own hard work and success. And that's okay, and that's good. And that must be welcomed by her husband, because he says together we can be a great team for our household. So why then? So what they will do, they will take out their anger on this successful woman because she's doing better than them. So it's not only women who are depending on the men. Successful women can tell you their stories because it's like, how dare you are better than me? How dare you bring more money than me? So you may suffer abuse. Not because you're an idiot or you are not like other women. Sometimes you can be abused for being beautiful. Just for being a beautiful woman.
Being smart.
Or for being smart. Challenging him.
You always have all these ideas.
Absolutely. So women out there must look at all these things, that there are just so many things you need to watch. It's not as rosy as it looks. And yes, Ria, I know there's this question, but when he married me, he was a sweet person. He wasn't. If you look back to when you were dating, and you really go back and analyze, you will realize that there were certain things that were happening, but at that time, you were in love. You didn't even want to bother about. You saw them, you observed them, but you're like, you know what? I'm young. I just want to get married. Have that ring, but you are aware that there are some things that are creeping in this guy during the dating period, but you are under pressure as well. You want to get married. So when they happen and show themselves later in life, your memory takes you back and say, actually,
I saw it.
I saw this thing.
Because of time, I'm pressed of time. 30 seconds. What are your last words?
My last words to women out there: don't allow men to treat you badly. Don't allow men to disrespect you. You are a powerful human being that, the universe created you. You are beautiful, you are smart. Don't allow men to reduce you to something that is just so cheap. Love yourself. The best thing you can do for yourself is to love yourself. And you love yourself by standing for yourself. And if you cannot stand for yourself because you're weak, go for counseling. Seek help. Seek help of a social worker, a counselor. Go to the police. Report the abuser. Don't let him off the hook. Report him. Let the law deal with him whilst you are going for therapy. Because I always say, choose life over abuse. You might not see this world for many years to come because you've allowed abuse, and then the man may end your life. Choose your life over abuse. Thank you.
Choose your life over abuse. The words of a registered social worker, Khemi Malau. Lerato, I need you to look at the camera with your book. Tell us where we can find your book. How much do you sell it? Anyone who wants your book, how can they get contact of?
Okay, so my book is available on Take a Lot, selling for 200 Rand. I want to get to a point where eventually we have a fund to assist women, because I saw how they struggle dealing with the court system and not affording lawyers. So I want to create a foundation so that we are able to equip women that are in need, that need assistance, and partner with lawyers to help these women. That's where I'm going. But the book is available on Take a Lot, also on Amazon Kindle, selling for 200 Rand.
What have you learned from your journey, and how has it changed you as a person?
My journey has empowered me because I'm not a statistic. I'm not dead. So other people are resting in peace, but I'm alive for my voice to still be heard. And this is the gospel that I'm going to preach for many years to come, because we've got a pandemic in South Africa. And I will make the noise until I'm heard by the president and everybody. I need to be heard.
Look straight at the camera and tell us your last words.
My last words is, I will not be silenced.
I will not be silenced. This is the fruit of the womb. My name is Lerato. Until we meet again next time, good night.
I hope I'm not blasting the sound.